Hey, thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this week's edition of Inside the Zone. As you can tell, Shane Albarani got younger and better looking. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the judge of that. We'll have the ladies write in and whatnot. Kaleigh Schrock, obviously you know him, Komets legend, now going into the Komets Hall of Fame, March 7th. As for that announcement, when you heard that, or when you heard that being talked about, like, what was your first reaction? Because, I mean, for a guy who grew up in Fort Wayne, it has to mean even more than if it were just a team in Timbuktu. I mean, this is your team, and now you're going into the Komets Hall of Fame.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, very thankful and blessed. You know, I've like I've said all along, I've had a Hall of Fame supporting cast. Right, it starts with my dad and obviously my mom, but my dad, I remember taking me all over the Midwest and always had his support. And then being able to play in my hometown, I always had friends and family at the games, and it gave me a reason to really play hard and to try to embody what it was supposed to be a Fort Wayne Komet, right? And being able to see them ever since I was a little boy growing up, obviously added to that. And just the teammates I've had, the coaches that allowed me and gave me a chance when maybe there were players that probably deserved it more than I did. But I was lucky that all I had to do was work hard to kind of get that opportunity, right? And so I'm very blessed, and obviously to be able to go in with like a guy like Doc Emmerich is, you know, I mean, it is surreal, yeah.
Yeah, that was my next question, is when you realize you're going in with, like, you and Doc Emmerich going into the Hall of Fame on the same day, it's like the voice of hockey. Yeah. Like, nationally, internationally, Doc Emmerich is the man, and now your name is not only next to him in the rafters, but you're going in on the same night.
Yeah, it's you know, honestly, like, you know, I can't hold a candle to that guy, so it's you know, it is what it is. But to be and I'll tell you, when he did a game, a minor league game when the NHL was locked out when I was still playing, and so I had an opportunity to meet him, and he came in the room and he knew more about my statistics, even from college hockey, that I knew of, you know. So he knew more about my stats than I did, and that's why he is the best at what he does, because of his dedication and the way he prepares. And you know, it was still an eye-opening experience even then to see, wow, this is what a true professional, the best of the best, is like, you know. And it really is eye-opening. And but he is such a great person as well. He's not just somebody who's, you know, arrogant. He knows he really cares about what he does, and he believes in it. And it's a very good opportunity. Very lucky.
What was the process, and how did you learn? Was there a phone call? Who was it on the phone that told you, hey, man, you're going to the Komets Hall of Fame, and what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I talked to Scott Sproat, and then Michael Franke called me and talked to me for a while, and it did feel like a little bit like, is this really happening? And yeah, I was very lucky, and I told both of them, you know, just thank you so much for the opportunities. I mean, if it wasn't for the Frankes, you know, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to play, and I think that they've done such a great job with the organization, you know, since I was a fan, and that's really when I got into it, is when they took over. And I know when they won in 92, 93 to beat the Gauls, that's when I really became a true fan, and just to really have those conversations with them. And as I remember them, you know, in the papers, and always seeing them on TV, and it was a little bit surreal. And sometimes I even pinch myself to think, hey, I was lucky to have that opportunity. I mean, if you would have told me when I was playing junior hockey or high school, if I could have had one game in a Komet uniform, I obviously would have taken it, you know. And so I've been very lucky and blessed to have to play 6 years here.
When you take a look at the genesis of your career, you know, people talk about NBA guys going one and done, they're 19 years old, 20 years old as rookies in the NBA. You know, baseball guys get drafted out of high school. Really, hockey starts earlier, where you live that professional lifestyle. So we know you're a Snyder High School guy, but when did you start playing the game of hockey seriously, and what was your path? Because a lot of these guys, the Blake Seaman-Aylers and whatnot, I mean, you have to leave home at 15, 16 years old, you know, play with, you know, a different club somewhere else, and you're kind of on your own. You got host families. What was your path like from, you know, the age where you said, okay, I'm going to take this game seriously on? Sure.
Well, my sophomore year, there wasn't enough kids to form a 14U travel team. So I decided to play high school hockey. And at the time, you know, what people don't understand about hockey, it is a different path, right? So you can't play, because it's a club sport here. Really, other than Minnesota, it's very difficult to play D1 or, you know, even Division III hockey, if getting there from high school, you can't do it. So you have to go play juniors. So I played that year for Snyder because we didn't have a team, and then the next year I played midget AAA in Fort Wayne, and that's really when I became a hockey player. Like, we weren't a very good team, but I had very good coaching. Larry Herb was my coach. I think we might have won 3 or 4 games all year. We didn't have, but I always tell parents now, hey, sometimes the best teams aren't the best development. If you can go and you can play a lot and have an opportunity to get a lot of ice time, that's what's going to help you develop. And then from there, I moved away my senior year to Kentucky. Actually, I lived with a family in Kentucky, but the team I played on was in Dayton. So
sure.
it just didn't make any sense, right? Like, my hometown was in Indiana. I went to school in Kentucky, and I played hockey in Ohio. It was just, and that's how it is, the hockey landscape, because of this junior element that, if you want to play college hockey, you got to play juniors in a lot of cases, and that's the path I took. And, yeah, you do mature a lot. You learn how to establish rapport with others, and that's what I tell all the hockey parents now that I'm recruiting for the Spacemen is, look, a lot of parents send their kids away to college when they're freshmen, and they're not ready for it. But the junior landscape does allow kids to go out, live on their home or live on their own, and then decide, hey, like, learn how to live on their own, learn how to be away from mommy and daddy, and become an adult, right? And so that's what I'm proud of that we can offer now with the Spacemen in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, that rolls into my next question, is talk about the opportunity you've had to be the head coach of the Spacemen. It is kind of that next level, because you were coaching Summit City, won a state championship in the gold and black. What does it mean now to have the opportunity with the Spacemen? What do you think that level of hockey provides the hockey player who's looking to figure out what they want to do with the game, with their life, with all that going on as a young man?
Yeah, just like what I said, it gives them an opportunity to open up doors for colleges or a higher level of juniors, right? And it's a unique opportunity for the Fort Wayne kids, as now we have something at the end of the tunnel in Fort Wayne where kids don't have to move away necessarily, right? And which is, it's awesome, because there are benefits, as I know, of playing in your hometown. You have more resources, you have your friends and family there, so you can lean on your support group, and it's nice to have that and be able to offer that in Fort Wayne. Obviously, with what we've done with the youth hockey program in the last 4 to 5 years, and steadily growing the numbers, it's nice to know that, hey, we have something at the end of the tunnel now where these kids can kind of look up to, and in return our kids can help out with our youth kids and start to become young mentors. Yeah,
you got the Fort Wayne High School Amateur Hockey Association. How has that helped grow this? Like, have you seen the sport grow in Fort Wayne, and if so, how has it grown, and what have been like the key elements to allowing the game to continue to evolve in a city that likes hockey?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the key element is we're very lucky. We have a lady named Elena Lunin, and she does a great job with our Learn to Skate program. So it's getting kids on the ice early,
experiencing
right?
it,
the grassroots, right? And I think we got away from that when there was that transition from when the youth hockey was out at McMillan and run by the Parks Department. We lost, I think, a lot of kids when when Canland came in, just because it was different and it wasn't your mama papa shop sort of feeling. And I think we're getting back to that now with the new rink management group, and really just trying to grow the grassroots, because at the end of the day, we got to, let's face it, hockey's not high on the totem pole. Obviously the Komets are the Komets, but as far as youth sports, we're competing with baseball, basketball, football, soccer, volleyball. And it's tough to get kids on the ice, but that's what our focus is just on the younger ages.
Switching gears, how much do you pay attention? Obviously, you've got your hands full with the Spacemen and with everything that you do, but how much do you get a chance to see the Komets? How much do you get a chance to check out the Komets? How much do you get a chance to commiserate also with guys like Guy Dupuis or PC Druin, or even, I know Colin's busy doing his thing, but old teammates here in the city of Fort Wayne or elsewhere that you get a chance to talk about the Komets with?
I would say we keep in touch as much as we can, right? Like I've kept in touch with Colin now that I've getting involved more in coaching, and he'll send me stuff. And Ron Leaf, we still work together because he does shooting lessons at the rink, and he's very much involved with what we're doing on the ice with the kids. And guys like Guy, we still stay in touch, and that's the best part about retiring here and being in this town is you still have a lot of those guys that stay involved and want to help out, and it says a lot about those individuals, and also the Komet tradition. And says a lot about Fort Wayne, that a lot of these guys, they're not like me. They grew up and played somewhere else, and they decided to raise their families here, which it's pretty awesome to have that as a resource, selfishly for myself, but for the kids, yeah.
How much have you had a chance to pay attention to the Komets this year, and what are kind of your thoughts? Obviously, you knew Gary.
Yep.
Ben has taken over. Ben Boudreau as the head coach of the Komets, and a lot of new faces this year. But what's kind of your take on what you've seen on the ice this year?
Yeah, I'll say it's it's definitely a new vibe, and it's a good feeling. And I thought Gary did an excellent job. I mean, he won every year he was here. He got the Komets into the playoffs, and I'm happy for him that he's having success where he's at now. But it's pro sport. Sometimes you need a change. It doesn't matter if it's the right guy or the wrong guy. And I think I'll say that the players and the energy that I'm feeling has been a very positive vibe. And obviously you're going to have ups and downs through the season. I know they've experienced a little bit of that here down the stretch, but I have a good feeling about this team. And I keep in touch with Benny and Legs. I actually was at a Komet practice a few weeks ago, and just trying to learn from those guys as well. And some of those Komets at the beginning of the year were helping me out with my training camp, guys like Jenks and Binkley, and having them on the ice with our teams have been fantastic. But I think the vibe is really good, and I think at that level, it's very difficult and it's a coaching challenge to. There's so much so many transactions.
Your roster's different every night,
right? So it's how do you keep that core group intact for the whole year? And let's face it, guys are motivated for different reasons at the AA level, whether they want to get to the AHL, whether they don't have a degree and played in the OHL and they're just playing because they don't know what else they're going to do with their life, or you have the guys that really want to win, right? They still want to win. And so I think you've got to find enough of those guys that really do care about winning, and try to get enough of those guys as your core to get those other guys to buy in and get them to understand that, hey, if you win here, you're going to have a better chance to do what you want to do individually too, right? If you buy into what we're doing and we have success, that's something Kaleigh Schrock taught me. Hey, if we win the playoffs, you'll probably be invited back next year. If we lose in the first round and make the playoffs, we're not going to have jobs here, right? And you have to think of it like that. You put the team first, and the individual stuff falls into place, right?
Looking back on your legacy with the Komets, obviously a Hall of Fame legacy, what do you most remember? What do you most take away from your times? I mean, because I imagine, like the first time you skate out in the jungle and it's going crazy in your hometown, it's got to be like cloud nine.
It was, yeah. I remember. Never forget opening night. We won 2-1 against Bloomington, and I had the game-winning goal. And I probably had like 7 shifts all game. I just threw a puck at the net, and it went in. And I remember Kaleigh Schrock and Brandon Warner and guys like Brad McMillan trying to support me, and hey, just survive another week and keep going. And I had a lot of support, and I definitely. My career would not have lasted, and it didn't last long. It was 6 years, but it wouldn't have lasted that long had I not had the support of those guys. And I was very lucky. But yeah, there's a lot of great memories that I have. But I'll never forget opening night and looking up and seeing that the place was sold out, and it's like my mind was like, okay, I'm normally watching this from the seats, and now I've got to try to put my hockey hat on and my player hat and go out and play a game.
2 cups. What are you most proud of in those 2 cups to be able to bring those back to Fort Wayne? What I don't know, in your eyes, what are you most proud of in that, Fort Wayne bills itself as a championship city, and that you were able to bring 2 championships in a 6-year time frame back to the Summit City?
Yeah, I think most proud of having just our backs against the wall, and every championship team does at some point, but being down 3-1 to Port Huron my rookie year, and everybody doubting us, and being able to kind of get back in the series and
bow your necks and
yeah, you know, I think that means a lot. And I've always played better when I've been doubted, or people, that was always my motivation. When people didn't believe in me, I found a way to kind of believe in myself and want to prove people wrong, right? And it was no different when we played the Mavericks and lost 2 games at home. And I remember we outshot them, and Charlie Effinger stood on his head, and then we went to their building and took 2 out of 3, and then won games 6 and 7 in Fort Wayne, and it was like that same feeling. And when guys he'll make fun of me for this, but Justin Cohn say Wichita in 6 games, that's extra motivation.
Sure,
you got to thank. I'll thank Justin for that.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm most proud of, and very lucky to win in Fort Wayne too. Both championships were on home ice, which that was awesome. I think the Komets, they've been lucky to win most of their championships.
I feel like every time,
right? Yeah. So, but definitely that makes you proud, and then to obviously, when you hang out those nights with your teammates and you look back, you always remember the championship teams and all the times we were this close to losing, and then you think back of all the losing teams you're on. Hey, we were this close to winning, and that's kind of the message is you're always this close. Everyone's right there, but it's what you do in that moment to get you over the hump.
Komets on a 7-game road swing right now, halfway through. What do you most remember about those road trips? Komets got the sleeper bus now. We were talking a little bit before.
Yeah.
And those can be fun trips. And what do you most remember about some of those trips? Because we were talking, I always wondered if the sleeper bus had enough beds for everybody. It's not. You got to sleep in shifts. How does it all work? And what are those road trips like?
The road trips are the best, right? Because that's when you really get time with the guys. And that's the bad thing about the sleeper bus is there probably will be guys that have to grind it out and sleep on the floor. The rookies. Luckily, I never had to do that. We had a sleeper bus later in my career, so I never had to sleep on the floor. But those are all great memories, when you're on the bus, and that's really what you miss when you retire too, is all the times with the guys. So, and it's nice too. Fans sometimes don't realize this is. Sometimes it's easier to play on the road because there's not as many distractions.
I wondered about that because I've heard people, like Blake, when he would come in, he would say that guys sometimes prefer to play on the road because there are no distractions. It's like tunnel vision. You don't have to worry about family. You don't have to worry about jobs. You don't have to worry about
it's true.
Food, apartment, anything. It's all hockey all the time.
It's true. It's easier to play on the road as far as staying focused and preparing for your job or your game. And, another thing, too, that people don't realize is some of these other places at the Komets, their opponents, they don't get as many home fans, obviously, as we do at Memorial Coliseum. So when other teams come here, they're jacked up, right? Because they're not used to playing in front of so many people. Whereas, if you get used to that feeling, we got, 5,000 people in the seats, but this is like any other game, so if you're not ready to play, you're going to be at a disadvantage because the other guys in that other room they're pumped up and motivated because they're not used to playing in front of that many fans.
Yeah,
right.
That is crazy. That is a crazy thing to think about how road can be an advantage. A lot of people think road rice, especially in the playoffs too. Everyone's like, oh, you got to have home ice. You got to have home ice. It's like, I don't know if that's true.
You just got to go out and play the game. And sometimes when you put all those other ideas in your head, we've got to be the home team. It's weird to think about, but it obviously is mental, right? Because it's the same sheet of ice, that you're going out and you're executing your same systems. And now, granted, matchups do play a role, right? The away team has to put their personnel on the ice before the home team. So that's where you get into the X's and O's. Now we're getting off topic, but that's where it could make a difference. But for the most part, you still have to go out and play the game.
Okay. To wrap things up, this is the one question I always want to ask guys. I never got a chance to ask, Brad McMillan or John Morasti about this, but what goes through your head when you're about ready to throw down? I mean, how far ahead are you like, okay, we're going to throw down the gloves with this guy? Do you give him a tap? Do you let him know? What is that process like? And what is, if anything, what is going through the head while, you're dropping the gloves, trying to, pull the guy? I mean, I'm just fascinated with that because I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
So I want to know what happens during that process and how everything works.
I think honestly, I would say 20% of my fights, or maybe 15%, were emotional. Where I was just it was in the game, took a hit, and we just dropped and went at it. Most of the time, it's like a tactical thing. Okay, we're down 2-0 at home. We want to get the crowd into it. They're snoozing, and so it's the same thing as like playing a game. You know, you don't want to get into a fight. And early in my career, this would happen. You'd get into a fight, and you'd go back to the box, and you wouldn't remember a thing that happened, right? Because your adrenaline's just. And I felt like when I started to have success was when it was just like any other shift, when I could go out and think, okay, I should have done this, that, and the other thing, and I was more focused. So I felt like when my mind was clear, and I wasn't necessarily, trying to hurt the other guy, but just thinking, okay, this is my goal. I'm going to try to get inside, or I'm going to try to dodge just right, not let him wear a clean one on me. Like, that's when I usually had success. So a lot of people think, oh, sure, your adrenaline's going a little bit, and it definitely, you get amped up, but I always did better when my mind was clear, and it was like, yeah, I'm not trying to really hurt the other guy, but I'm also not trying to get my butt kicked in front of 8,000 people. So.
What's up next for the Spacemen? Next games? I mean, when can people? If people don't know, where can they go get tickets? When do you guys play? Where is it at?
Yeah, so we play at the Sport One Parkview Ice House. We're actually off this weekend, and then we have 3 consecutive weekends at home. And then we start playoffs at the beginning of March. So if you want to come out to a game every weekend in February, come out and check us out. Our schedule's online, FortWayneSpacemen.com. You can just buy tickets at the at the rink before the game. And yeah, it's really fun. We're lucky. We've got a lot of good players. We actually have a player right now who's 2 goals away from setting the season single goal record, Jared Fisher, in this league.
Oh, nice.
So having that opportunity in the first year, and we're excited for Jared because he's a Fort Wayne kid as well. So yeah, come out and check us out. It's these kids are really good.
All right, I appreciate it, man.
Hey,
Kaleigh Schrock, head coach of the Spacemen, also Komets Hall of Famer. It happens March 7th at War Memorial Coliseum. Good to see you.
Thank you. Great seeing you too, Glenn. Thank you.
All right. We'll be back next Monday for Inside the Zone.